Welcome, welcome, welcome back. Um, Actually, yesterday the signal wasn't as good as I wanted it to be, and I didn't realize that the signal was so poor until the end of what I was sharing with you yesterday. So I'm going to start from top. I'm going to go over the presentation, the talk in its entirety today. So I just want to say welcome to all those who are here and welcome to those who didn't see it yesterday and are here today. But before we even get started, I just want to say thanks to everyone that will join in today. My name is Dr. Richard A. Cross, and I'm the founder of the Black Male Impact. Today, we're going to be talking about what was taken, what survived, and what still shapes us. As a part of today's, a part of the Black History Month presentation, we have one guest so far. We have several guests that will be coming here in the next coming weeks. All right. I know we had Dr. Ross a few days ago. So, with that being said, the topic, as I shared earlier, what was taken, what survived, and what still shapes us. The hidden power of Black cultural intelligence. But before I get into the presentation, as I did yesterday, I'm going to share a poem with you. But before the poem, I just want to say this as well. The hatred, systemic oppression, and historical attempts to diminish Black people have never truly been about color of our skin. Rather, they are fear driven reaction to inherit undeniable greatness, resilience, and power encoded within our DNA. This is a reflection of that power, a call to shift from a perspective of victimhood to one of recognizing our place as the foundational supreme architects of humanity and excellence. All right. So the point that I'm going to be sharing with you, as I did yesterday, but again, as I said, I had poor signal, and I did not realize until I got to the end of the presentation. So the poem that I shared yesterday, and I want to share it with you again, um, which is titled "The Blueprint of the Sun." It was never about the shade of the skin, but the fire that rages and gathers within. They do not fear the dark of the night, they fear the star that holds all the light. You are the original, the first breath drawn under a wide open sky, with the wisdom of ages reflected in your eyes. Your DNA is a library, a sacred ancient scroll carrying the rhythm of the earth in your soul. They saw the way you could turn grief into song, how you stood in the furnace and grew twice as strong. They saw the empires you built from the dust and the gold in your spirit that never could rust. The world does not hate you for what you lack. It fears the power of a spirit that cannot turn back. It is a fear of the root, the source, and the seed of the innate greatness that fulfills every need. Your bones are the bedrock. The blood blood is the tide with the strength of 1,000 ancestors inside. So stand in your statue. Let the tall shadows fall. You were never the least. You were the mother of all. Stop looking for mirrors in eyes full of dread and wear the crown of the sun that belongs on your head. For the power they try so hard to confine is the proof of a lineage that is truly divine. I hope that poem resonate with you. It's just a reminder of the greatness that we have within, and that it's not just today, and it's not just about our skin or how you look, but the greatness that is within, and that greatness will never go away. Some become aware of innate ability, and some will only become aware later on the journey. But we have a responsibility. Once we become aware of our innate ability, that we take it as a responsibility to help those present and those who are coming behind us, to realize how great they are, or how great they can be. All right, so it's one thing to become aware. The next thing is to get behind that awareness, take action, share your greatness with confidence, with the world. So before I get into the meat of the talk this evening, I want you to sit with one question, right? Not to answer it out loud, but to carry it with you for the next few minutes. All right. How much, how much of who you are was chosen, and how much was inherited? Let me ask the question again. How much of who you are was chosen, and how much was inherited? Not just biologically, but culturally. All right, we all are exposed to different perspective and different ideology of who we should be and what we can be and what we can achieve. Although innately we do have some ability, but sometimes that ability have been suppressed. And how we show up in the world, confidently or timidly, sometimes that is because of what we have seen around us. It's not because we cannot be confident, and it's not because we cannot be courageous in our pursuit to make a difference or to achieve the things that we are capable of achieving. But some of it we have learned, in our environment, and then that have an effect on who we are and how we show up in the world. So, being that the question that you're going to be pondering, it's because whether we acknowledge it or not, culture shapes how we speak, how we lead, how we respond, how we define success, and how we imagine the future. How we what It doesn't matter if we want to acknowledge it or not. Culture affects us, in so many ways, in every way possible. How we speak, how we lead, how we respond to pressure, how we define success, and how we imagine the future. All right, this evening is not a traditional Black history presentation. This is not a timeline of events. This is a conversation about power, memory, and responsibility. We are going to talk about what was taken, what somehow survived, and what is still quietly shaping our lives today. All right. So if you're here, thank you, and feel free to share this presentation with those you are connected to. I know I will share something that will be of benefit to do those who um, will be here today. All right. So I just want to say thanks for being here. Hopefully, I'll get done within 40 minutes. But let's get into more of the talk. So, what was taken? Culture is not decoration, culture is infrastructure. It tells a people who they are, how they relate to one another, and how they solve problems, and how they envision tomorrow. And again, we are all affected or influenced by the culture that we, especially your immediate environment and what we are exposed to. All right. When African people were captured and dispersed, the goal was not only to control bodies, it was to disconnect minds. So if you don't know who you are, you may not realize what is possible for you. All right. Or what those before you have done, which is considered great. Language were stripped, names were erased, families were fractured, spiritual systems were criminalized, and history was rewritten. So those are some of the things that were taken from us as Black people, the languages, the names, the family. You know, they were fractured because of people going different places, and the spiritual systems were criminalized. All right, we were told Africa has no universities, even though Timbuktu housed centers of learning that studied astronomy, medicine, and laws centuries ago. And some of this that I'm sharing with you, I learned late, and I still don't have deep knowledge in it. I just learn some of the things that I'm sharing, which empowers me. So I hope that which you hear today will empower you. So we were told African people had no written language, even though systems like Nasibidi exist and were suppressed because they allowed communication without permission. This is not accidental because when you disconnect people from who they were, you don't have to police them forever. Confusion becomes control. You not knowing who you are, we don't have to worry about you becoming or want to. All right. So confusion becomes control, silence become compliance, complacent. Sorry, and that disconnection didn't end generations ago. It echoes today. So what the people before us have dealt with still affect us today. And if we don't take the time to unlearn some of the limitations or unlearn some of the things that have been placed on us, the falsifications, who we should be or who we cannot be, if we don't unlearn some of those things, it will continue generations to come. So, what survived? And yet, despite everything that was taken, something survived. We lose languages, families fractured, and the spiritual system were criminalized. But yet, despite everything that was taken, something survived. Not by choice, by chance, not by chance, by intelligence. African people carried culture in their bodies. their voices, and their communities. Storytelling become education, call and respond become accountability, rhythm became communication. Drums were banned because they unified, names were stripped because they anchored identity. Spirituality was demonized because it grounded people in purpose beyond the system. But culture adapt. The great didn't need paper to preserve history. The community didn't need permission to create mutual aid. Innovation didn't stop because resources were limited. It became sharper. So, despite what we didn't have or what was taken from us, the innate ability to create, to do great things stays with us. Some passed on through generation, through storytelling, but it still stays with us. And it's not that we have to go and find what we carry within. What is needed is to become aware that it's there. And then we take the time to activate it. Because greatness is in all of us. But if we don't take the time to activate it or first become aware of what we are capable of, we will not do more than the ordinary. Yet, we have the ability to do great things. All right. So despite all what was happening, we didn't lose it. We become um, more strategic. The way we do it, or way we pull it from within, become sharper because we have to, learn ways to keep what we carry. So the next generation can also become aware, or those who survive the atrocity, can still share despite what they were exposed to. So, what the world often labels as style or expression is actually strategy. So, we always find a way. Even today, you can see how creative we are. So, innately, that's something that comes natural. So, you didn't inherit dysfunction, you inherit adaptability. So, we know there are some things that were taken from us, some things that survived. So what still shapes us today? What still shapes us today? Now here's where history becomes uncomfortable, right? Because history didn't stay in the past; it shows up in our mindset. Survival thinking tells us get it where you can, do it on your own, trust no one. And that made sense. When systems were designed to exclude you, but survival thinking has an expiration date. So we can't just be thinking about survival, survival, survival. Yes, it sometimes that's what we have to do based on where we are, but we have to get beyond that. But survival thinking has an expiration date. Legacy thinking asks different questions. What am I building? And these questions are questions that we all need to ask ourselves. Like really sit down and ask ourselves, because we're not living just for ourselves. All right, you're not just living for you. I'm not just living for me. So it's important that we ask these questions. And this is about legacy thinking. What am I building? What am I doing every day that can help others? Who benefits after me? The things that I choose to do today, who benefits. And that's not too much to ask. That's not too much of a responsibility because we today are standing on the shoulders of those who selflessly decided to do something that us today can benefit from. Again, it's important that we ask, what am I building? Who benefits after me? What systems am I leaving behind? Will things remain the same because of the things that I do? Or will things change because of the things that I do? And sometimes we may think we are not capable of creating pathways for others. And again, it doesn't matter where we start or what we start with. Innately, we have the ability to do great things. But we have to get to a point where we start asking ourselves the question, what am I building? Who benefit after me? And we all can be intentional with the things we do each day. We have a responsibility, especially when we become aware of our ability, because we know we did not get here just by our own merits. Yes, we showed up, we do the work that we are capable of doing. We have to make the commitment, we have to be disciplined, we have to be consistent in our pursuit. But, we are the recipient of what others have done before us. So, what we need to do is to make things better for those who are coming behind us. And again, that's not too hard of a responsibility, but it's something that we as individual have to make a conscious decision to do. And don't let, because of where you are or what you think you start with, you're not capable. There are people before us who had less and still make great things happen. Less resources, less access, but they create a pathway or a system that we benefit from today. We may think it's difficult. And also, what we must take in consideration that it doesn't mean we should do it on our own. But yet, it's still important to have the right people around when building something that we want to be sustainable, when we want to impact generations to come. Because it takes diligence, it takes commitment, and it takes, you know, setting high standard for ourselves and expect great things from ourselves. And sometimes it can be difficult to say, you know what, I want this and I want that, especially if you don't have the resources or have the access. But if you start moving intentionally towards what you want, despite what's happening, despite the distractions, you'll be surprised to what you accomplish or what you accomplish as a collective. So, back to those questions. What am I building? Who benefits after me? What systems am I leaving behind? Many of our modern challenges aren't moral failures, they are unexamined survival strategies. Hustle culture, hyper independence, mistrust of institutions. And we will get back to mistrust because we have been conditioned not to trust each other. And going forward, and with a lot of things that we want to see change, we have to trust each other. It's not me versus you. And it should never be me versus you or you versus someone else. We have to learn to trust each other, right? Behavior makes sense when you understand its origin. Um, and again, most of what we live out today is because of what we have been conditioned to believe about ourselves, both individually and collectively. However, awareness gives us a choice. So, how do we reclaim cultural intelligence? Cultural intelligence is not nostalgia, it's not about going backward, it's about using what we know intentionally. So, to reclaim cultural intelligence, it's not about going backwards, but to use intentionally what we know now intentionally. So, if we become aware, what are we going to do with that awareness? And we have to be intentional in everything we do to make a difference. And we are capable. We are more than capable. Innately, we have so much to offer. But yes, it takes, having that strategy. It takes, working together. It takes, you know, having clarity or focus of what we want and understand that in reclaiming our cultural intelligence, we don't have to compare ourselves to others. We don't have to compete with each other. See how we can work together to get to where is possible. um, this generation should make it better for the next generation. But when the next generation stands on our shoulder, will they see further than we are seeing today? Or will they be looking backwards? And that is something that we have to really think about. Will they be looking further than we are today? Or will they be looking backwards? What will the next generation see when they stand on our shoulders? We know what we see or how far we're seeing because of those who have gone before us, whose shoulders we are standing on today. But in reclaiming cultural intelligence, it's about using what we know intentionally. Leaders who understand culture build trust faster. Educators who teach history had as instruction, not trauma, empower identity. Mentors who model legacy, thinking, create movement. All right, this is the work to stop using culture unconsciously and start using it strategically. What we learn is about how we use it. And we don't need permission to use what we know, to use what we learn, to use what can move the needle forward, to use what will make a difference for the present and future generation. It's always how we use the resources that we have. And we have enough resources to use to make the difference that is needed and to set up the next generation to be in a better position than we are. And yes, we can look at the current climate and thinking that it cannot be better, but it can be better. Let's not think that because it doesn't look like it can be better, I'm not going to do anything to make it better. Because if we just sit back and do nothing, nothing is going to change. And if any change that's going to happen, that we want to happen, as we all know, we must be the change we want to see. Let's not only, especially this month, we will be sharing a lot of quotes, a lot of reminders. But what is even more important and more powerful is that we live the things we say. We can say lift as we climb or post it a million times. But if we are not lifting as we climb, we are just posting words. It's important that we live it. And if we live it, we will see more change than we even think is possible. We don't have to wait for permission. We don't need validation. What we have to do, use what we know and use it intentionally. All right. So to stop using culture unconsciously and start using it strategically. So a part of our responsibility, as I said earlier, is that once you know you are responsible, we can't blame others. We can't even control what other people do. But once we know we have a responsibility, people are going to do whatever they want to do or whatever they have been conditioned to do. We cannot control what people do, but we can control what we do. And if we want to see change, we must be the change we want to see. That's one thing that we can do. We have control over how we show up, how we treat others, how we lead, how we speak. And if we live what we share, what we talk about, it's like walking the talk. It's not just sharing the information. And a part of my philosophy as a teacher, as an educator, I often say when they ask about the teaching philosophy, I said anyone can teach. If they can read, they can teach. But if that's all they do, they're failing the students because a teacher is supposed to do more than sharing the information. All right. So once you know you are responsible, Black history is not just something to celebrate, it is something to apply. So, as I'm getting closer to the end, learn one truth deeply, teach it intentionally, apply it boldly. Because awareness without action is incomplete. Let me say that again. Awareness without action is incomplete. It's not just to become aware of what we can do or what needs to change or what can make a difference. Without action, it is incomplete. And when us as people move with cultural awareness, purpose, and alignment, the impact doesn't stop with us, it multiplies. So once we show up with cultural awareness, purpose, and alignment, the impact doesn't stop with us, it multiplies. So when you do your part, you will inspire someone to do their part. And what we must all be aware of is this: someone is always watching. So we are an inspiration to more people than we sometimes think. But once we show up with cultural, or we move with cultural awareness, purpose, and alignment, the impact does not stop or doesn't stop with us. It multiplies, right? So, as I, which will, I think I'm going to be within the time that I wanted. So, this is just a call to action, from knowing to becoming. And this is, me. Well, I'm going to be closing with the poem that I started with. But I want to say this: as we leave this moment, I want to bring us, back to what we have uncovered, this evening. What was taken was not our intelligence, it was our connection. Let me say that again. What was taken was not our intelligence, it was our connection. What survived was not accidental, it was adaptability, creativity, and cultural genius under pressure. That's why they always say we are so resilient despite what's happening, or despite the challenges we encounter on our journey. That's part of our DNA. That's been passed down, to us. Right? So let me say this again. What survived was not accidental, it was adaptability, creativity, and cultural genius under pressure. All right. And what still shapes us is not weakness, it is inherited strategy waiting to be redirected. What still shapes us is not weakness, it is inherited strategy waiting to be redirected. We know how to be resourceful. I know some of you, may have started your journey, with very little, but you find a way to get to where you are and even to achieve great success. So you redirect that which is within you already. All right. So here is the call to action. Stop seeing your history as something that happened to you and start seeing it as something that was preparing you. Stop seeing your history as something that happened to you and start seeing it as something that was preparing you. Shift your mindset from survival to possibility, from reaction to intention, and from individual success to collective impact. This week, choose one area of your life: your leadership, your classroom, your family, your finances, your mentorship, and ask a different question. How can I apply what I know about my culture to build something that didn't exist before? This week, Choose one area of your life, your leadership, your classroom, your family, your finances, your mentorship, and ask a different question. How can I apply what I know about my culture to build something that didn't exist before? Not someday, not when conditions are perfect. No, not someday, not when conditions are perfect. No. Because possibility begins when perspective changes and when us move with awareness, alignment, and belief in what's possible. We don't just break cycles. When we move with awareness, alignment, and belief in what's possible, we don't just break cycles, we build futures. All right. So this is the work. That is the work. Sorry. That is the work. That is the responsibility. That is the impact. Let's move forward with intention. And that, concludes my presentation with you, or my talk with you um, for today. And as I said, as we go forward, I have several other guests that will be sharing their perspective on the work that they do, their leadership, and how Black history impacted them. All right. So I have several guests, coming in the next couple of weeks. So my talk today was what was taken, what survived, and what still shapes us. And as I said, I'm going to close with the poem that I started with. I really resonate with it. I hope you do as well. The poem is titled "The Blueprint of the Sun." Sun. It was never about the shade of the skin, but a fire that rages and gathers within. They do not fear the dark of the night. They fear the star that holds the light. You are the original. The first breath drawn under a wide open sky, with the wisdom of ages reflected in your eye. Your DNA is a library, a sacred ancient scroll carrying the rhythm of the earth in your soul. They saw the way you could turn grief into song, how you stood in the furnace and grew twice as strong. They saw the empires you built from the dust and the gold in your spirit that never could rust. The world does not hate you for what you lack. It fears the power of a spirit that cannot turn back. It is a fear of the root, the source, and the seed, of the innate greatness that fulfills every need. Your bones are the bedrock, your blood is the tide, with the strength of 1,000 ancestors inside. So stand in your statue, let the tall shadows fall. You were never the least, you were the mother of all. Stop looking for mirrors in eyes full of dread and wear the crown of the sun that belongs on your head. For the power they try so hard to confine is the proof of a lineage that is truly divine. I hope that poem resonate with you, and I will be back to share more with you before the end of the month. I have one more presentation that I'll be doing individually, but we have guests that will be coming on in the next couple weeks here on the Black Male Impact. So I just want to say thanks to all those who stopped by, all those who have participated, and those who have engaged in today's talk. I'm not seeing the comments. Normally they do pop up here, but I realized when I checked in the message areas on the different, from Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, there were comments and stuff like that. So I may see them afterwards. But I just want to say thank you, and just continue to do the work that you're doing that makes a difference, because your difference is important. And don't think because you're not doing as much as everyone else, your contribution is not important. Your contribution to make a difference is important. Is just as important as those who are doing, maybe more than you are doing. But again, as I like to tell those who I, encounter, that this is not about you comparing yourself to others. It's about you being you and betting on yourself and show up in your greatness unapologetically. And again, you don't need permission to be the best that you can be. All right. So go and be the best you possible. You don't need permission to share your greatness with the world. You don't need permission to, be that light. And remember, when you shine, when you be the best you possible, you are giving other people permission to do the same. All right. So that's it for today's presentation. I do see some people still on the live. But I'm getting, ready to close out today's session. So until next time, be great and look forward to more conversation here on the Black Male Impact.